My name is Claire Donovan. I'm 35 years old. I work as an insurance claims auditor, and I learned my sister had turned our mother's recovery into a business when a home health nurse placed 9 months of receipts on the kitchen table and asked Brooke to explain why Mom had been paying for a family of 4.
Commuter?
Until that morning,
These are
Brooke's
just from
version
this
sounded
month.
almost noble. She
How
had
are we
moved
gonna
into
pay?
Mom's house after the stroke. I lived 90 miles away in Raleigh, so I paid for professional care while Brooke said she handled everything the agency could not. Whenever relatives asked, she called herself the daughter who had put her whole life on hold. What she
I
never
only want
mentioned
what
was
is
that I was sending
best for her.
$3,600
I am
every month
happy to.
for Mom's aides, medication delivery, physical therapy transportation, and prepared
Well,
meals.
that's the last of the
She
kitchen
never
boxes.
mentioned that she had moved
Perfect.
her husband, Darren, and their 2 teenagers into the house without asking me. She certainly never mentioned that the nurse had started photographing every grocery receipt, canceled appointment, and missing supply. Our mother, Evelyn Price, was 68 when a small clot caused an ischemic stroke. She survived because a neighbor heard a plate break and called 911. The stroke weakened her right side and left her with expressive aphasia. She understood almost everything, but when she was tired, the words she wanted arrived slowly or not at all. Brooke treated that delay like permission to speak over her. I noticed it during the hospital discharge meeting. The social worker asked Mom whether she wanted rehabilitation at a facility or support at home. Mom lifted her left hand and pointed to the picture of her house. Brooke answered before she could finish. She wants me there. We already discussed it. Mom's eyebrows tightened. Let her answer, I said. Brooke rolled her eyes. Claire, this meeting is already taking forever. Mom tapped the house again. Then she slowly formed 2 words. Home. Help. That was clear enough. She wanted to recover at home with help. The agency recommended morning and evening visits, 3 physical therapy sessions a week, and a registered nurse named Elena Ruiz to supervise medication and monitor Mom's blood pressure. Mom's pension covered part of the cost. I agreed to pay the balance. Brooke had recently lost her rental after Darren's contracting work slowed down. She offered to stay in Mom's guest room for 6 weeks. I can handle nights, she said. It'll save everyone money. Mom nodded, and I believed the arrangement might help both of them. 6 weeks became 9 months. First, Darren's truck appeared in the driveway. Then the teenagers took over the upstairs bedrooms. Brooke moved Mom's sewing table into the garage and converted the sunroom into Darren's office. She said these were temporary adjustments, but family photographs disappeared from the hallway and were replaced with framed pictures of her children. Every time I visited, Brooke had another explanation. Mom was too tired to talk. Mom had already eaten. Mom did not want physical therapy that day. Mom had asked Brooke to redecorate. Mom preferred having the family nearby. When I tried to ask Mom privately, Brooke stayed in the doorway correcting her answers. She means yes. She gets confused in the afternoon. Don't upset her with financial questions. Mom was not confused. She was trapped behind a voice that no longer moved as quickly as everyone else's. I began visiting without announcing it. On my first surprise visit, I found Mom alone at 2 in the afternoon, wearing the same robe she had worn the night before. Her water glass was empty, the television was on, but the remote had fallen beyond her reach. Brooke had taken the family to a soccer tournament. The agency aide was supposed to be there, but Brooke had canceled the shift and told the office that family would provide care. I called Brooke. We were only gone 3 hours, she said. Mom can't safely reach the bathroom alone. She has an emergency button. That is not a substitute for a person. You don't understand because you're not here every day. That sentence became her shield. No matter what I paid, arranged, or documented, Brooke was physically closer, so she claimed moral ownership of every decision. I restored the canceled shifts and instructed the agency that only Mom or I could change the schedule. Brooke responded by posting a long message in our family group chat about burnout and ungrateful siblings. 3 aunts sent her heart emojis. No one asked who had been left alone. Elena called me 2 weeks later. Her tone was careful. I need to confirm what you are purchasing for your mother. Whatever is on the care plan. Did you authorize a second television, patio furniture, or a gaming console? I thought she had the wrong family. She explained that Brooke had started giving Mom's debit card to a grocery delivery service. The orders included energy drinks, beer, school snacks, expensive steaks, and household items in quantities far beyond one patient's needs. The delivery drivers left printed receipts, and Elena had found them stuffed beneath old newspapers. Your mother became very upset when I asked about them, Elena said. She pointed toward Brooke's rooms and kept saying, "Not mine." I drove to the house that evening. Brooke was in the kitchen unpacking groceries. Mom's debit card lay beside her phone. "Why do you have that?" I asked. She did not pretend to misunderstand. "Mom told me to use it for household expenses." Her household expenses. We are her household now. Darren entered from the sunroom and leaned against the counter as though I were a difficult customer. "We gave up our privacy to be here," he said. "Food is the least Evelyn can cover." "You moved in because you had nowhere else to go." Brooke's face hardened. "That is cruel." "It is also true." Mom struck the table once with her left palm. We all turned. She pointed at the debit card and said, "Mine." Brooke picked it up before Mom could reach it. "She means the account is hers. Obviously." Mom shook her head. I held out my hand. "Give me the card." Brooke laughed. "You don't control her money." "Neither do you." She finally dropped it into my palm. The next morning, I took Mom to the bank. Elena came with us so Brooke could not claim I had pressured her. A bank employee used yes or no questions and allowed Mom time to answer. Mom revoked Brooke's card access and requested 12 months of statements. The total was worse than I expected. In 9 months, Brooke had spent $11,742 from Mom's account on expenses unrelated to her care. That was in addition to the $32,400 I had paid directly to the agency. There were restaurant meals on nights Mom had eaten microwaved soup. There were hardware store purchases for Darren's jobs. There was a $1,260 sectional couch placed in the sunroom Mom could no longer enter because Brooke had installed a desk across the wheelchair path. When confronted, Brooke said Mom had always helped her children. "Help is something a person agrees to," I said. "You removed her ability to say no." She would have said yes. From the living room, Mom forced out 3 words. "I did not." Brooke went silent for exactly 2 seconds. Then she began crying. She said she was exhausted. She said Darren was struggling. She said her children deserved stability. She said I could not understand the burden of living with a disabled parent. Some of what she said was real. Caregiving was exhausting. Darren's income was unstable. Her family was frightened. But hardship did not transform Mom's pension into a family checking account. I offered a solution. I would pay the deposit on a nearby rental and cover the first 2 months if Brooke moved out within 30 days. She could continue visiting Mom, but professional aides would manage the care plan. Brooke refused. "Mom needs us." Mom looked directly at her and said, "No." Brooke walked out of the room. That should have ended it. Instead, it made her more determined. 2 days later, she invited our relatives to Mom's 70th birthday lunch. The invitation described the house as the Price family home, lovingly maintained by Brooke and Darren. She asked guests to bring hardware store gift cards for renovations. Mom's birthday was still 3 months away. I called Aunt Sylvia, who had received the invitation. "Brooke says Evelyn is giving her the house," Sylvia told me. "She says it's only fair because she provides all the care." That explained why Brooke would not accept the rental. She did not want shelter. She wanted a narrative strong enough to make taking the house look like compensation. I contacted an elder law attorney named Helen Park. She met with Mom privately and arranged an independent capacity evaluation. Mom understood her assets, her family, and the consequences of her decisions. Her speech was impaired, not her judgment. Helen prepared a revocable trust naming an independent fiduciary to manage the house, if Mom became unable to do so. The trust guaranteed Mom the right to live there and required that any occupant have her written consent. It did not transfer the house to me. It protected Mom from both daughters. Brooke received formal notice to leave within 30 days. She responded by telling the family I was evicting a devoted caregiver. That was when Elena asked to speak with me and Helen together. She arrived carrying a canvas nursing bag and a thick accordion folder. I started keeping records after the canceled shift, she said. Inside were dated copies of every receipt Elena had found, each matched to Mom's care calendar. She had retained medication delivery slips showing that Brooke claimed reimbursement for supplies already covered by insurance. She had photographs of the blocked wheelchair path, time-stamped notes from missed physical therapy appointments, and meal logs showing days when Mom received less food after large grocery orders. Most important were the pages Elena had asked Mom to initial. Whenever a purchase appeared questionable, Elena showed Mom the receipt, identified each item, and asked whether she had authorized it. Mom marked yes or no beside every line. Elena witnessed the marks and documented Mom's responses in her clinical notes. The nurse had not been building a case for me. She had been preserving Mom's voice. Brooke's attorney requested a family mediation 2 days before the move-out deadline. He argued that Brooke had provided unpaid overnight supervision and deserved reimbursement. Helen agreed to review any legitimate expenses. We met at Mom's dining table. Brooke sat beside her attorney. Darren remained in the sunroom. Mom sat at the head of the table with a speech tablet Elena had helped her learn to use. Brooke began with a prepared statement about sacrifice. She described shopping, cooking, cleaning, and protecting Mom from loneliness. She claimed the money she spent had benefited everyone in the home. Then Helen placed Elena's folder on the table. "We are prepared to credit verified caregiving expenses," she said. "Please identify them." Elena handed Brooke the first receipt. It was for 4 restaurant dinners delivered while Mom's nursing log recorded 1 cup of soup. The second showed a gaming console purchased the morning Brooke canceled Mom's physical therapy. The third was the sectional couch that blocked the wheelchair route. Receipt after receipt followed. Dates, amounts, delivery photographs, clinical notes, and Mom's initials formed a chain Brooke could not interrupt with emotion. Her attorney stopped taking notes. Brooke pushed the folder away. "So the nurse has been spying on me?" Elena's voice remained calm. "I documented my patient's safety and consent. Claire put you up to this." Claire did not know the folder existed until last week. Brooke turned to Mom. "Are you really going to let her throw your grandchildren out?" Mom touched the screen of her tablet. A clear electronic voice filled the kitchen. "You moved in to help me, then you used my house to help yourself." Brooke stared at her. Mom pressed the next prepared sentence. "I want my rooms back. I want my money returned. I want you to visit as my daughter, not live here as my owner." Darren appeared in the doorway. "We don't have $11,000. Helen opened the settlement proposal. Mom was not demanding an immediate lump sum. Brooke and Darren would leave within 14 days, return the furniture purchased with Mom's money where possible, and repay the remaining balance over 30 months. In exchange, Mom would not pursue a civil claim unless they defaulted. Their legitimate grocery contribution and documented overnight assistance were credited. It was firm, fair, and more generous than a court was likely to be. Brooke looked at me. "You planned all of this." "No," I said. "You created it. We documented it." She signed the agreement. 2 weeks later, Brooke's family moved into a rental 3 miles away. I paid the deposit I had originally offered, but I paid the landlord directly. Help would no longer mean handing someone unrestricted access. The sunroom became Mom's therapy space again. Darren moved the sectional out, and the wheelchair path reopened. Mom chose new curtains herself. Elena pinned a bright calendar to the wall so Mom could approve every visit and expense. Brooke stayed away for 6 weeks. Then she came on a Sunday afternoon, carrying a grocery bag and 1 receipt. She placed both on the table before unpacking anything. "Chicken, rice, peaches, and the tea you like," she told Mom. $28.14, I paid. Mom examined the receipt. Then she looked at Brooke and smiled. It was not forgiveness completed in one afternoon. The was a beginning with boundaries. By the following spring, Mom could walk short distances with a cane. Her speech remained slow, but nobody was allowed to finish her sentences without permission. Brooke visited twice a week and attended a caregiver support group recommended by Elena. Darren found steady work. Every repayment arrived on time. I continued paying for professional care, but the arrangement was transparent. Once a month, Mom, Elena, and I reviewed the account together. Mom marked each page with the same blue pen she had used in the nurse's folder. The last time I visited, I found a small wooden box on the kitchen counter. Mom had labeled it "Receipts" in large block letters. Inside was the grocery slip Brooke had brought on that first Sunday. Mom tapped the box and slowly said, "Not revenge." "No," I agreed. She smiled. "Respect." That was the lesson my sister had almost learned too late. Love can be generous. Family can help without keeping score. But when one person controls the home, the money, and the voice of someone who cannot speak quickly, records become more than paperwork. They become protection. Elena had kept every receipt because she understood something the rest of us had missed. Mom did not need another person claiming to know what she wanted. She needed enough time to answer, and someone honorable enough to preserve the answer. If this story made you think about the difference between caregiving and control, tell me what you would have done in Claire's place. And subscribe to Silent Karma Stories for more stories about family betrayal, firm boundaries, and justice that does not need to shout.